Need to get a new one of these. It doesn't really fit my head, right? It's even on like the smallest, teeny tiny head.
Makes hat wearing easier.
It does.
All right.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Sky, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, I'm so grateful to be able to be here.
I am grateful that you're here as well. So, you know, we've known each other for a few years now.
Maybe 3.
And you are my tarot card reader. You've done a past life regression with me. You've done energy work. I've been taking your Understanding Energy class. And every time I get to sit with you, I feel inspired. I feel like I'm learning something about myself and others. I'm learning about how to be a better person in the world. And so I couldn't wait to have you on the podcast. I feel like
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah, thank you so much for being here. Can you explain to everybody what it is that you do? I know that's a really broad question.
Sure. When I term it like one word, I call myself a spiritualist. And I used to call myself an oracle, and some people, that didn't sit perfectly with them. So I decided to shift to spiritualist. And as a spiritualist, to me, the work that I do is like soul-based, core energy, uplifting, enlightenment work. And whatever spirit brings to me in that realm, I follow the call. And so that means that I do divination with tarot and other means. I talk to spirits if they so wish, whatever way. I speak the energy of the language of energy in a really big way, because to me that's the core base of what we are, soul residing in a body, and that soul is the energy that is us. And so anything having to do with that energy, which can be energy healing, past life regression, soul retrieval sort of connections, and enlightenment positions, and all sorts of things that come with that soul maintenance that I think is really important, that we kind of overlook sometimes.
Yeah.
So I do a lot.
You do a lot.
I also, side note, as an artist, I work in textile art, which is sacred flagging, which is thousands and thousands of tiny sequins sewn together with prayer to make beautiful art. So that's one of my favorite side things that I do.
Yeah, and I've seen that work. It's beautiful.
I love it. It really is definitely like one of the loves of my life.
Well, and I think that's maybe another reason why I'm drawn to you, is because creativity is so important to you, and it shows in everything you do. Did you make the jewelry that you're wearing?
I did make the jewelry that I'm wearing. And to me, one of the things I learned about energy early on is that creativity and intuition go hand in hand. And so if we tap into that creative side, that, I always joke and say my obliviousness is my greatest gift and my worst curse, because I'm like, of course this is possible. Like, why couldn't it be possible? There's got to be a way. And so in the energy of that comes creativity, which means why wouldn't I sit and sequin 200 sequins to create a beautiful story of spirit in that way? It just is.
Yeah, and I remember one time we were sitting down and you were talking to me about what you do, and you were explaining it. You're like, I can't really actually call it this, but I'm kind of like a spiritual therapist.
Right, yeah. And, legally, we can't call ourselves therapists or counselors, but to me, because we're doing soul-based work, I'm not a fortune teller. Some people go to someone to look into their future and they just want to know like one thing, and most of the time they just want to hear what they want to hear, and that's not what you're going to get from me. Like, from me, we're going to work at the core level of your energy, and we're going to take those symptomatic energies and kind of file them in the right places. We look at the roots and really have like long-term work that we do to for uplifting and enlightenment and soul pathing and destiny connections in a way that says like, okay, yes, you might want to know where your love life is going, but if you don't know how to love yourself, then that's not going to help you a lot.
Right.
So let's get to loving yourself, and then we can look at what's going on in your love life.
Yeah.
Just as an example.
I felt like it was, when we sit down, I feel like I'm being coached
Aww.
in a really beautiful way, and in a spiritual way. Like I'm being
Right.
coached, like, okay, let's pay attention. Let's slow down. Let's think about the way you are being in the world.
Right, yeah, and that's what usually makes like long-term clients for me, because we're always growing and we're always learning, and I myself am growing, my spiritual mama is growing, like my papa would say, if you're not asking questions, you're in the ground, and so like, you should always be inquisitive and curious and learning and seeking in every light, and so having someone to walk that path with you is valid and important, because it allows for that to be a little bit more streamlined in a direction, whether it's a coach like you or a coach like me or a coach like both of us together, which
Right.
It works on different aspects of life, but I believe that the one intensifies the sum, and the more that we can get to our core true self and like living our truth and happiness and love and peace and uniting, then that means that ripple outward into the world grows as well.
Yeah. And currently I'm taking your Understanding Energy class, and I know you're going to be teaching that again in November.
Yeah.
And is it going to be a 6-week or 8 weeks?
It's going to be 8 weeks. The learning experience we had together, there was 1 week that was a little intensive.
We learned a lot.
We learned a lot in 1 week. And it wasn't that it was undoable, but it might have been done with more comfort if we would have split that 1 week up. And then I want to add dream journaling into it, because I think energetically dream journaling is a really important aspect. So
Yeah.
I think that'll be really good. This has been one of my, I'm a Reiki master and I teach energy healing, and I have a lot of different core studies. I do an energetic business class that talks about like how to weave energy into all aspects of business, and so to me that's my language. But this class has been one of my favorite classes because it just really gets to those fundamentals that everybody can gain from if they just look at them.
Yeah, and it's so much self-work.
Yeah.
And that to me is great. I'm like, okay, how can I learn more?
Right.
Growth is a core value of mine, and so it just gives me layer after layer after layer to grow.
Right, and it's a good cultivator, because like there's lots of tools, whether it's sharpening tools that you've already had, or whether it is tapping into new tools you didn't know you needed, or like bringing some out and dusting them off. Like it has a lot of tool sets in there that really allow the self to come forward, and that's my favorite way of teaching. Is I'm the guide. I'll just walk ahead of you at the light, and sometimes you'll catch up to me, and sometimes you might be a few steps behind, but like we're just like walking together on this journey, and then that allows you accountability, which to me is valuable and important, because if you're self-accountable, then you're invested in your own growth and you really want it.
Yeah, one of the things that you did, and I'm not going to share exactly how you explained it because I don't want to give it away because it was so great, but you kind of talked about what it actually means to be vibrating at a higher level.
Right.
And I thought that was really profound. So everybody needs to take this class so that they can get Sky's explanation on how, like what that means.
Right.
Yeah.
And without giving that juicy tidbit away, which was given to me by Spirit, it was like an epiphany in the middle of a different class that I was teaching, where I was like, this is what I need. This is the best example for people to be able to see what a clear pathway looks like. But in that, like our vibrational level, like we are all energy. Like, we are a soul first. We were a soul before we became a physical being. We'll be a soul when we're done, whether you believe in past lives or reincarnation, or that you go into another plane. Like there's no denying that we have an energetic base.
Right.
That can't be encapsulated. It can't be kept in a in a bottle. It is who we core are, and in that, then that means that we don't wake up and go like, what does my soul need today? Like, what soul exercises? Well, you do now because you took the class. But most people don't. That's not their go-to. They're like, am I hungry? Do I need to exercise?
I need to go to the bathroom.
I gotta go to the bathroom. Like, what's going on? And so we don't think about like the value of the energy, the value of the soul, and what it's doing for us until usually we have either an existential crisis or we decide that we want to shift towards enlightenment. And then we're like, oh yeah, there's this thing I've been carrying around for 40 years that actually is me that I need to pay attention to.
Yeah, and that leads me to something that I thought that your explanation of, so I did your healing work, the Grove, and the Grove is like, the only way I can explain it is like it's Reiki meets powerful visualization, meditation, self-healing work with a guide.
Right.
And you talked to me about how we often, I think I got this right, like we'll pick up a backpack because there's things that we need to carry, but we keep carrying it,
right,
even when we no longer need it.
Exactly.
And is this how you would explain it?
So one of the things I would say with energy, like that backpack metaphor is really usually like hits home with people, because like if you are 5 and you pick up, you have your backpack and you pick up a rock that's mistrust and you put it in the backpack, then the next action of mistrust is more likely to happen because you're carrying that around. We want to filter through, we want to process, we want to align and feel the feel and then move it through our system, because the trilogy body, the energy, the physical, the mental, emotional, all have a purpose and they all need to allow that filtering and processing. But if we carry that and then we walk along and we see another pain that looks just like it, we're like, well, I'm collecting those. And we pick it up and we put it back in our backpack. There's another one. And so throughout life, we're just like, oh, there's that, mistrust rock right there. That's another one. I better put it back here, put it in the pack. And the pack gets heavier and heavier, and we get used to carrying it. But it doesn't mean that that's in our best good. We're just used to seeking out these rocks of mistrust that we learned to carry with us from an early age. So the Grove is one of the deepest fundamental energy healings that combines a lot of different modalities into one. But what it does is it goes into the energetic system and it says you need to know fire is hot once, dark alleys are dangerous once. If people show you a red flag, don't listen once. But you don't need to have the 99 billion times you looked on Facebook to see if they were doing the same thing or repeating that energy or walking face into the wall the way that we do. Humans are the only self-sabotaging creatures on the planet. If I say it tastes like crap, taste it, you're going to go like, oh, you're right, it's horrible. Instead of going like, no, thank you. I trust the message. And so, like, the Grove goes in and takes all those extra rocks out of the backpack that you're collecting because you learned to collect them. And it releases that at the core level base of the soul energy. And it realigns everything and actually sets what I call like energetic antibodies in the system, so it allows your energy to heal those places more smoothly. And then the work is up to you. Like, if you go through with clean pipes and a clear system, it's just your mindset that changes. Most people say the Grove is like a feeling of coming home to themselves, and they didn't know that was available.
Yeah, it's really powerful. I think anybody needs to sign up for that. And I'll link to your website so that people can explore what you're doing. But along those lines, I think I heard about your work at a time when I was ripe to be able to accept the work that you are able to share with people. But, I was raised a very strict Catholic, and you do, and we're not going to get too far down this rabbit hole, but the cards you use are voodoo cards. Your spiritual background is voodoo.
That's true.
And so I think that if it had come along earlier, I wouldn't have been ready for it. I wouldn't have understood. Those of us that might be teetering on the edge, that might have a dose of skepticism, what can you share with them?
Sure. So, whether we'd like to believe it or not, we are all very similar in a lot of ways. So to me, spirituality is a language that gets us to an end, basically. And some people, I was raised Catholic as well, I still have some, of that belief system within me, and so the idea of, this chair is going to be a chair, whether I say it in French or German or Spanish or English or Swahili. Like, it's still a chair. And so to me, you know, I believe in non-manipulation. I believe in peace. I believe in wellness. I believe in wholeness. I believe in compassion and honesty and so many things that I'm sure lots of other people believe in. And just because my language is different doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means like it's another tool that you get to use
Right.
to be able to get to a place that will, you know, open you up to what you need to use, like what is good for you. And so, you know, while some people can be intimidated by the images or the cards, or, you know, intimidated because it seems like I know so much more about energy, or because I'm speaking a language that they haven't heard before, if you listen with your soul, like, it's going to hear it, and it's going to like come to life with that sort of, you know, language,
Yeah.
and then you can embrace it. So that's what I think.
Yeah, and because I worked with you, the voodoo cards that you use are gorgeous. I mean, I've never seen images like that before.
So they're drawn by my spiritual mama in New Orleans, Sally Ann Glassman, who is an amazing human on the planet, and, you know, kind and generous and beautiful and wise, and, you know, has always like been a rock in my spirituality and my position of, you know, someone not only to look up to, but to walk with.
Right.
And so she's an amazing artist, and I've seen those, you know, the paintings of those, like huge paintings of those cards, and the front doors of her house are made of tile that she painted of those cards. So you
Wow.
walk in through the cards, and, you know, they're very unique. They're not a deck that most people will pick up and be able to use. They have an extra card, and they work with several layers of theology, and that allows for that really specific, really intense read that people get, because, you know, it's not only so close to home to my heart, the energy of the cards, but like the stories that the cards can bring forward from you through them is, you know, really unique. And so that's, you know, I've just, you know, I will always just buy a new deck of those cards and use those cards, like, because they've done me so well for so long.
Yeah, and you know, the cards that I feel really comfortable working with are the animal spirit cards.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I use. But I did purchase a set of those because I just love looking at the
Yeah.
picture. They're so the imagery is really powerful.
It really is.
And I don't think I'll ever be able to do a reading from that, but I love the artwork, and I love what she's cultivated with that art.
It's intense and beautiful and powerful all at the same time.
So I'm wondering if you're comfortable sharing your story of how you came to do this work.
Sure. So I think like everyone who is open to some of their capacities of intuition, I was born pretty intuitive as a child. One thing that I would like to remind everyone, and that is a huge part of my journey, is that, like, when you're a child, you believe everyone is like you. You don't go, I'm special and I can, you know, feel this, do that. You think, you know, if I see that, then they must see that. If I feel that, then they must feel that. And there's this a likeness that's really beautiful into children. And so it was a while before I realized that intuitively my doors were wide open. Now, I believe everybody has the capacity for intuition and energy and, you know, soul purposing and all of those things. But some people are born with their doors wide open, and other people are born with them half cracked, and some people are born with them closed. And it doesn't make anyone right or wrong. It just is in that way. And so I was born with my doors, you know, wide open, maybe off the hinges. And so it took me until I was about 4.5 or 5 years old, and my mom would say, "Start with your active imagination." When I would tell her these stories of these, you know, like whatever I was perceiving, and start with your active imagination. And so I was watching Electric Company. This will date me, but and on Electric Company,
Was it a TV show?
It was a kids TV show a very long time ago. And on Electric Company, they used to do these really psychedelic kind of like things, and it was like the word imagination was going across really psychedelic, and it was like imagination, you know, like totally crazy. And then they started talking about imagination, and I was like, that is not what I am doing at all. Like, this is not imagination. So then it's planted that seed in my head of like, wait, what does she think I'm doing? Like, what is, and it was that first time that I actually felt that little bit of like separation from the norm feeling was in that moment. So that's a really pivotal part to me. And it's why I also am an extreme advocate for children to like, in creativity and originality and believing and you know, like feeling heard. Yes. All of those things are very important in that cultivation. And so from there, we'll fast forward, I won't go the whole entire story. I was married extremely early and to a not very nice person, and had I was married at 15.
Wow. And
had children.
That was legal then?
Well, if you're pregnant, it's legal.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so to an older person who was also an abusive alcoholic. What part of the escapism that I did in that relationship, someone had given me a set of tarot cards. And so I would read the cards. I didn't have a book. I didn't really know what tarot cards were. My Catholic base was about all I had and my interesting uniqueness of perception. And so I would either, while he was at work, do readings for people, or I worked third shift in the middle of the night during my lunch break. I would do readings for extra money, and it was so accurate. It was like intensely accurate to have like no skill set, no knowledge, and this is before the internet. So one of the things you have to think of, like I couldn't like Google tarot card reading. Right. What does it mean? It wasn't there. and so I, I scared myself, honestly, like the accuracy of the reading, and it wasn't her deck, it was a different deck, but the accuracy of the readings were scary to me because I didn't know where it was coming from. And so that's when people come and they're like, they're skeptical or they're worried, like, I get it, I was there, like I didn't believe it for myself, and it was me. Right. And so in that, it took me, escaping that marriage and growing from that. I have 4 beautiful humans who are a product of that, and it was worth it for every bit of them, and they're like some of the best people I know in the world. But the experience of that and escaping that made me hungry. It made me want to figure out, like, what was this, uniqueness about me. And I don't like using the word special because we're all special in our own way. We all have this capacity, but there was something about me that, like, obviously put this path in place to get hungry for
right.
this energy. And so I went on a huge seeking mission to figure out, like, how to cultivate this part of myself in a way that was not just productive for me, but it was a survival mechanism at one point. Now I wanted to put it into a thriving mechanism, and so that's how eventually I found Sally Ann and all the things that happened with that. And I just that obliviousness really